One of the things about life that we're all very familiar with, and we learn at an early age, it's always possible to change your mind. It's always possible to change your mind. It's always possible to change your mind and your heart, too. Your feelings. Feelings are very like the weather. They come and go, strong and not so strong. And so there's always that variation. And when we change our minds, sometimes that changes our feelings too, and become familiar with that. Now, the question to be asked, especially in light of our readings, is a very simple question. Lord, what is your will for me? It's an interesting question. Lord, what is your will for me? Now, think about this. How many people ask that question? How many people in the whole world ask that question? Or say, how many Christians ask that question? Or how many people of any religion ask that question? How many people ask that? And at what age and time in life? Is it a question to be asked when we're young? Is it a question to be asked when we're middle-aged? Is it a question to be asked when we're in old age, the so-called being an elder? It's a lot better than an old person. You have to watch your language, because, connotations, denotations, it's a whole different thing. But anyway, okay. Now, this is another thing here. To have a spirit of discernment is to possess the ability to judge well. Now, how do you judge well? Like somebody may say, that was a good judgment. Or think about any kind of a judgment. Was it a good judgment? How do we judge well? Now, discerning God's will requires moral perception. You have to have a moral basis or foundation. Moral perception. Insight. Everybody has a little bit of insight. You just can kind of see into things, into situations. When you encounter somebody, you kind of get an insight as to where they are. Are they extroverted, introverted? Are they kind of nice? Maybe they're a little bit mean. We make these initial judgments. It's just very much being human. And then there's always this, and this applies to education. Practical application of knowledge. Have you practically applied your knowledge, that which you learned? That's always a challenge because it depends on how much you learn. And sometimes it doesn't depend on how many degrees you have, because that's, I often heard this a lot when I was growing up. The school of hard knocks. Did you ever hear about that? They don't use that anymore because now there's a lot of hard knocks and nobody learns from them. That's the way it seems in this day and age. And I'm making a judgment there. Okay, so now, if you have not done some of that, which I just talked about, if you have not done some of that discernment, you wouldn't be here today. Now, isn't that interesting? So we've done that, or we wouldn't take the time to be here today. We'd be doing something else. And some people do something else. They don't go to church. They do something else. Like it may be a golf day for some people. I'm not going to talk about my own relatives, but anyway, Sunday is golf day. Okay, now, of course, then there's this, and we all know this, or we wouldn't be here today. Prayer is a big part of discernment. Prayer is a big, we're praying now, right? This is what we're discerning. We're discerning in this way at Mass. Spending time with God. We're spending time with God. We're spending time in the church with each other as faithful people. And then daily prayer, spending morning prayer, spending a little time with God. Taking the time to pray and reflect. Reflecting on things, thinking about things, pondering things. And we all do this to a certain extent. And then there's this. It's never too late to use your free will as God intended. So we've got that freedom. We've got the freedom of free will. It's never too late. Not for God, it's never too late. And so, there's a little prayer. This can be a little prayer. Father, I choose to do your will today. Now, if you say that every day, you're going to have to try to do it. Every day, Lord, I'm going to try to do your will today. Now, our responsorial is so beautiful. It says this: remember your mercies, O Lord, your ways, O Lord, make known to me. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me. That kind of says it all in a lot of different ways. Kind of says it all. And then there's this, and we're all familiar with this. The yes or no situations of life. Have you ever been in a position where it's either yes or no? No, maybe. Yes or no. The yes or no situations of life with some maybes. Maybe there are some maybes, but you can't have too many maybes, because then you're never going to do nothing, or do anything rather. Okay, so now, say what you mean and mean what you say. Now, we've heard that so many times. We got all these useful cliches in our English language. Okay, and then there's this. What's the story? I saw that in a movie once. There was a family get-together, and there was the patriarch of the family. So there's some problem that they have to deal with in the family. So they all get together, and he sits down there on his throne. It's kind of a rocker, but anyway. And so he says, all right, we're all gathered here. Yeah, I see we're all here. Thank goodness. Well, they're not here yet, but we're going to start anyway. All right, what's the story? And then you get, I don't know if families do that anymore. Some families, did. But anyway. And then there's this, fill me in. Fill me in. You get together, you meet a friend you haven't seen in a long time. Or, hey, fill me in. Or what about this? Hey, update me. Update me. They do that a lot in business. Get to their business meeting. All right, update me. And so, and we do that very commonly too in our relationships with people, being updated. What's going on? What's the story? Amen.